live. Good evening. This is the Nevada Unified School District Board of Trustees meetings of September 21st. We're going to convene an open session and call to order. And the first thing we'll do is a pledge of allegiance, item number 5. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item is item number 6, announcements of reportable actions from closed session. Trustee Gasson, would you please provide a status report of our closed session?
Thank you. So for item 3B, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session, public employees discipline, dismissal, release, it was informational only. Item 3C, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 and Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, Barbara Frankovich, Interim Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, Employees Organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers, NFT, was informational only.
Thank you very much. The next item, item number 7 on our agenda, is approval of the agenda. This is the order of business we'll conduct. So I need a motion to approve the order of business, or is there anybody who wants to make a change? No change? So I need a motion to approve the order of business.
I will move tonight's agenda. Okay,
thank you. Trustee Nell, and I got a second from Trustee Jacobson. All in favor? And we need advisory vote from student trustees. Thank you very much. Two advisory votes, and Jocelyn is not here yet, so thank you very much.
And I vote yes.
And Greg votes yes. Thank you. Greg, please just keep interrupting me because you're pretty transparent right now. Okay.
One absent.
And one absent is Maria. So for this order this evening, Trustee Maria Aguilar will not be joining us, and so we'll have a motion. She has a medical concern, so at next meeting we will excuse her from this meeting because it's an excusable absence reason. So with any other questions? Okay, so that's item number 7. Item number 8, public comment on the consent item agendas. Does anybody, are there any cards? Hearing none and seeing none, there are no cards. Nobody wants to speak to the public to the consent items that we're going to now consider. So with that, we will move on to item number 9, approval of the consent agenda. I need a motion from a trustee to adopt the consent item. Does anybody want to pull any items? No. Trustee Butler, move the consent item. Second by Trustee Gasson for the consent item. So this will approve all of the items under consent, which is item 15, all of the items A through L. So all in favor? We have a motion on the table. 6 trustees in favor, 2 advisory votes from our student trustees. And Trustee Mack, your vote?
Yes.
He votes yes, and Trustee Aguilar is absent, so 1 absent. That's consent item. Next is student presentations. Dr. Derby, do you want to take item 10?
Sinaloa is here, so Jeff, you want to come up? One of his teachers, he will explain, did a video of the kids. It's always great for us to see the kids in action, and it's nice to honor visual and performing arts once in a while. So Jeff will share a little introduction about the teacher and the kids.
All right. Good evening, board members, Superintendent Derby, and Novato community. My name is Jeff Wallace. I'm the principal at Sinaloa Middle School, and I'm here to present to you our amazing drama program tonight. This year, we are proud to offer for the first time a full year drama class for our 7th and 8th grade students. This is a brand new program for them. Each year, our school takes a Youth Truth Survey. And I shared with my school today that over the past 2 years, we asked our students if they feel safe at school. And just 2 years ago, we were in the bottom third of all schools in the country on that question. I'm proud to say that in just 2 short years, we are now in the top 33% of all schools nationwide on that question, do you feel safe at school? I believe this is due in large part to new and improved programs like our design class, band, AVID, leadership, technology, and now our new drama class. As you will hear tonight, drama class is a place where kids feel loved, safe, and included. It's a place where kids can truly be themselves and express themselves. With that, I'm proud to present to you our drama program. All right, hopefully.
Hello, my name's Liz Nelson, and I teach drama here at Sinaloa to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. It's been a bit challenging trying to start a program here, a drama program here, with COVID and masks and social distancing. So I decided that this year and last year, the most important part of drama class for me was to get kids to feel comfortable with other kids, to have a lot of fun, to experience being on stage in a fun, carefree fashion, and to not worry about what others are thinking of them. So this year in drama class, we are working on building community, we're working on building relationships, and we are working on just figuring out how cool it is just to be us, our unique selves. So drama is a lot of fun. It's a little wild, it's a little crazy, but drama class is where kids should be able to be a little wild and a little crazy. So here's a little bit about who we are. Enjoy. There you go.
Drama is really important because it's a creative outlet for students. Like, when you get to drama, it's like a family, and it's like so supportive, and you just get to be yourself, because like in other classes you like have the stress of the day, and like when you get to drama, it's just like you just have fun.
Drama is important because a lot of kids feel the pressure to be perfect all day, and drama is just a place where you can do what you want and like be yourself, and you won't get like judged because
drama is important because you get to express yourself in ways that other classes might not let you. You get to be yourself, you get to just go out there, go on stage, and be you in a way that's acting. So you get to be more creative, you get to show who you really are and express yourself in great ways.
And then I'll answer your question. Okay, go.
Drama lets me be myself. Drama is important because it helps kids be creative and it helps them make new friends.
my favorite period is drama because like you don't have to be yourself. You can just like you don't have to hide under that shell. You can just like open up and like do fun stuff. Like for example, like I just like feel good. It's like the vibe is good in the classroom.
I love drama because it's whenever I come into the classroom, it's just like a sigh of relief because I don't have to worry about school and all these other academic problems. So I can just be myself and just have fun.
The next little bit I'm going to play for you is an improv game we often do in drama. And that's where kids have to think of scenes right on the spot and be comfortable enough to come in and tag kids in and tag kids out and not be worried about making any mistakes, but just getting up and having a lot of fun. These sessions usually include a lot of laughter. Enjoy.
We have to get home somehow. Oh, I can't believe I just lost my phone. My phone is all dead. We're stuck in the forest. Where should we go? It's getting pretty. Maybe we should find some sticks to make a fire. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Hi, may I take your order?
Yeah, could you tell me what this is?
Oh, that's our beef stew, English town.
What does it have? What is that?
Oh, it's like basically like steak, but with other ingredients.
I was wondering why there's so many turtles like everywhere.
I think it's like a migrating season or something.
No, it's my house. Why are they in my house?
Oh, this is your house?
Yes.
Oh, you're your neighbor. Hi, nice to meet you. Anyways,
Yeah, why are they here? I don't want them here.
Freeze.
Veronica, I know you stole my clothes. I didn't. I know you have my Lululemon leggings. No, I saw you take them from my bag at our sleepover. Oh my God, I did not take them. Then where are they? I don't know. It was conveniently at your house, and now they're missing. Maybe I accidentally took them.
Hello, Mary Shady. I don't know where my bananas are. No, ma'am. I don't know where your bananas are. Oh, well, I left them somewhere. Maybe I can help you look for them. Do you know where they are? Well, where'd you last them?
Well, maybe if we keep digging, we'll find it, okay? We just gotta keep trying.
Okay, I'll dig with my hands.
Okay. Oh, what is it?
Wait, did we find it?
I'm not sure what.
Okay, let's just be honest. Drama's fun, okay? It's fun, it's creative, it can even open up new job opportunities. It just helps people relieve stress, it helps you be yourself. And overall, it's just nice. It can relieve stress. It's just helpful.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much. Are there any questions or anything?
Questions from the board, including student trustees?
Not a question, but I'm so happy that, one, you're using the Youth Truth information in a way that can really help students have a better experience. And being a new parent to your school, just watching, there's a lot of academics and really excited teachers that teach all the academics, which gets the kids excited, and that's so great. But watching all the additives there are and additional programs, it's such a great way for kids to get exposed to things in a comfortable way that could be something they love in their life. And it's great for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? No? Okay. Mr.
Thank
Wallace, thank you so much. It's always good to hear you representing, a bunch of 12 and 14-year-olds too.
We have fun.
Yeah.
We have fun every day. Every day is an adventure.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you. We're going to move on to announcements from board, superintendent, and student board members, and we'll start with our student board members. Mazana, do you want to lead us off?
Hi, I represent San Marin, and so far there hasn't been much to update you on since last week. We have further planned our homecoming, selecting our court, and then today we had a yearbook and leadership photograph them. A newer group on campus, the Race Relations Coalition, which was established by Phoebe Smith, will have its first resolution meeting sometime in the next 2 weeks to amend some conflicts we've had on campus. Hopefully we will have a positive resolution. We are trying to refrain from punitive action and work with more restorative justice behaviors. And lastly, San Marin has had its first female cheerleader in what I want to believe is 7 or 8 years. I meant to say this last week, so that's my bad, but he is a sophomore on JV and he is wonderful.
Not just a cheerleader, you said a football player, or which sport?
Just a cheerleader. He does JV cheer.
Oh, male cheerleader.
Yes.
Ah, yes. Oh, that's good. That was actually when I was in high school. We had male cheerleaders. It's glad to see you're dropping back 50 years in terms of traditions.
Novato High has them. We just are not lucky enough.
Oh, okay.
That's a good start.
That's good. So, Danny, do you want to tell us about?
Yeah, so I represent Novato High, and a few things that have happened in the last week is our fall club fair took place the day after the meeting. We had 43 clubs and a lot of students attended. We have 26 staff advisors for that. And then we have suicide awareness information being posted daily on the Novato High Instagram account. And then we have Hispanic Heritage Month. We post daily on the Instagram from the 15th all the way till the 15th of October. We will be playing Latin music as well as Hispanic music at lunch every Friday until the October 15th. The library is showcasing Hispanic author books and fiction books written by Hispanic authors and in Spanish as well. And then we also just started playing different Hispanic songs on the announcements as well as over the loudspeaker, so students will get to know what we're trying to encourage. Our grading period does end this Friday, so all our students are using office hours to turn in any missing assignments. Msa Tours are for incoming families, starts next week on Tuesday to Thursday. And they also have a film challenge on October 2nd. We have 1 month until homecoming, and we have a Spirit Week from the 18th to the 23rd. Our rally is the 22nd, and our game and royalty crowning is the 23rd. Novato High's football team has a fundraiser at Mid Pizza on the 10th of October. And then athletics is working on boosting their spirit and attendant games by passing out spirit items at games or raffling tickets with prizes for staff that attend games. And we've just been encouraging students to come to any like sports game that's have been going on.
Cool. So did you have let me see, one of you guys had a game under the lights here, I think, this last week. Is that true?
Last week was an away game, but we have had them recently. We've had about, I want to say 3 or 4 under the lights games. It's honestly so much more fun, and the students are a lot more spirited, and they're a lot more open to coming to games at 4 o'clock and 7 than 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. So it's working out a lot better.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks for the update. That's great. So Trustee Aguilar is out, of course. Trustee Nell, do you want to?
I have no comments this evening.
Jacobson?
I attended the Marin Oaks Back to School Night, which was lovely, and a couple different site and district PTA meetings.
Butler?
As well, attended Marin Oaks Back to School Night last week and was able to talk to a few parents there, and they're just ecstatic that their child is there and it's the right fit for their child. So it was nice to hear that we, it's always good to hear positive feedback.
Trustee Mack, are you able to give us a status report?
Nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Gasson?
So not much. I too have been attending some PTA meetings, and one thing that I just want to put out to the community is sign up with the PTAs. The great, parents, kids, teachers, and all. And I just looked at my calendar because I'm at San Marin. The next Friday Night Light game, I believe, is on the 1st. Could be wrong.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right after Halloween?
1st of October.
1st of October, not 1st of, okay, no, cool. Okay, thanks. And I have no status to report. Dr. Derby.
I just wanted to announce that School Fuel Grants has launched, and everything's due by October 2nd, so schools can apply for grants through School Fuel, and so that they're all getting ready to do that. And they're hosting a softball tournament on October 11th for moms only. So, Julie, you'll need to represent.
I am running a team, thank you. Also, we're working on getting a men's tournament as well. So,
you are?
Please reach out to your PTA if you are at a school that has not talked about that yet.
Okay, very good.
That's great to see youth athletics. That's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So we're moving, that's all comments. I'm moving on to non-agenda public comment. This is a chance for somebody who wants to speak to an item not on the agenda. So we're going to see if there's any items that have been come in. I hear nobody in the room, and I hear nobody coming in remotely. So we're done with a non-agenda public comment, and we're moving on to staff reports. And the first item is Marin Insurance Authority. Dr. Derby, do you want to?
Yeah, so Lois is coming over. MSIA is our insurance provider, and so she can explain to you what she does when she goes to these meetings and she works with them.
Good evening. Excuse me. So I have yet to go to a meeting, but I will be representing the district at the meetings. MSIA stands for Marin Schools Insurance Authority. It's our joint powers agency. No, not agency. I'm sorry. I should know what the A stands for. Authority. And it is a conglomerate of school districts, apparently all districts but one in Marin, use MSIA for their insurance needs. It covers workers' comp, property and liability, and dental and vision is what we get through them. And the workers' comp is the bulk of the money. They need to set aside quite a bit because workers' comp cases can often go far into the future depending on what the situation is. We have, and that's one of the biggest items of risk management. I have quarterly meetings that include HR and myself, and we go over all the cases, and it really helps to try and get ideas for mitigating to be able to prevent more cases in the future with our employees. So this report is something that comes out each year, and it is a summary of how MSIA invests their funds. They need to divulge it to the public, and they have a total of $41 million in funds, which is a healthy balance on this report, and part of it, $13.4 million, is invested basically in cash. That's with LAIF, which stands for Local Agency Investment Fund, which is an opportunity for various agencies to come together and be able to get good rates because they're as a group. And then the remaining, which is $27.7 million, is controlled by or managed by Chandler Asset Management. So that's much more your traditional investments that you can read through this, and it explains the investment strategy and the kinds of things they put the money into to grow. And it's interesting, I wasn't sure how this report was presented, so I actually went online. YouTube is a great resource. And I watched Yancey from 2018 give his report, and the dollar amount was much less back then, so I'm thinking this is a great strategy because the portfolio has really grown. So this is great assurance for us that there are funds to cover what we need in all the different areas.
Absolutely. It was originally designed so that we could get a better rate as a group versus each of us doing insurance separately. So for us to all come together, I didn't know there was one that wasn't participating, but I think it's really terrific that when, I don't know who's on the Effectiveness and Efficiency Committee. Anybody? Yeah, Deb. Sure. This is one of the things that was discussed there. So it's really important for us to continue to do these kinds of things to reduce our costs.
And it's a little bit of tidbit of information. The reason I know one is not on there is because that particular district is on the Sonoma County JPA. Yes. So I was aware because I was involved with RESIG up in Sonoma County. So it is a small world between the two counties. So any questions on this? It's an information-only report.
Okay, so a couple of points. So basically every school district tries to be part of a bigger group so they can spend less management dollars managing a bigger pool of money.
And these JPAs understand schools. They focus on school business, so they really can speak to the needs of a school district, which are very different than your general private sector type things.
And it's a workman's compensation pool they're managing, is that?
And they also have property and liability, so I'm sure some of this money is earmarked for that. And then dental and vision insurance is carried through them.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, it's status. Student trustees, you're okay? We're going to move on. So that's a status report, so we're going to thank you very much. And the next report item is item 14, discussion A. And this will be Dr. Derby talking about our trustee areas and with some presentations.
Okay, and we have a card. So I'm going to ask William to come up from DWK. Redistricting is something we need to do. And we have a new census that's supposed to be out in a couple of weeks. And as soon as that is available. And I did talk to Shelley Scott today and asked her when we could expect it, and she thought it would be coming pretty soon. So the redistricting needs to happen. And we also are working with a consulting firm, Cooperative Strategies, to get those maps done. And then we have the ace in the hole with Zach, right? So I'm sure he will work with them as well. So we're delighted you could be here tonight, William, and glad that you're local, so you could just come over the bridge.
Yes,
right?
very nice.
Terrific. So welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening. Nice to meet all of you. Again, William Tunick with DWK. Yeah, it's nice to be at a board meeting again in person, I have to say. So a few more of these lately. As the superintendent mentioned, the board, with the release of the census data, actually just pretty much today, there's a requirement for the board to look at a trustee area. So I have a short presentation. Want to make sure
You're getting
technical piece before it gets going. Okay, let's see.
You'll have to look at that.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. No problem. Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned, here to talk about the requirement coming out of the census to be district trustee area. So just by way of quick background, I know the district went through this process a couple of years ago, but just to kind of give a refresher on the different types of election systems and kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. The different systems that most districts use are either at-large or by trustee area elections. So in our hypothetical here, we've got on the left-hand side, so same district, same voters. We've got 15 voters, 8 have one set of preferences, 7 have another. If you use at-large elections in that situation, which is elections where everybody in the district votes for all 5 members of the board, theoretically, if those preferences hold, you're going to end up with a board that expresses the preferences of the majority in all 5 or all 7 cases if you have 7 members. And the numerical minority voters are not going to have their preferred candidate win any of the elections. If you go to trustee areas, which is what we've got on the right, and you take the district and you draw geographic subdivisions like the district has at this time, you run those same elections, the same preferences, the outcome of the election changes. In 3 of those districts, you're going to end up, again, the majority voters, their candidate's going to win, but in 2 of the districts, the candidate preferred by the numerical minority of voters is going to win. And that is, at the end of the day, sort of the policy underlying why we've seen across the state the change from at-large to trustee area elections, especially with school districts. And what has also really fueled that has been the California Voting Rights Act. And what the CVRA essentially codifies is that policy preference that we just talked about, and specifically what it says, not necessarily that all at-large elections are in themselves violate the CVRA, but that when you have that type of voting preference that we just talked about, where you have one group voting one way and one voting the other, and those preferences correlate with membership in a race, ethnic, or language group, then that's when the election system can be in violation of the CVRA. Unfortunately, the standards there are a little bit loose, and we haven't had a successful defense. So what has happened across the state since the CVRA has been enacted is many districts, cities, counties moving from at-large to by trustee area elections to avoid any liability under the CVRA. And that's exactly what the district did in 2019. It went through a public process to develop trustee areas, and when a district switches from at-large to trustee areas, it actually has to draw maps of the trustee areas. In this case, it was 7. There's 1 for each board seat, and I believe that's the areas that were developed as part of that process here up on the screen. The first elections under that system were held in 2020, and the next set of elections will be held in 2022. And actually, I know it's a little bit small on the screen here. This is the same information that's on the district's website, just to give you a reminder of the different trustee areas, the assignments to the trustees on the board, and the election dates. And as you can see from this graphic, the district is still sort of in that transition period where the seats that came up in 2020 were elected by trustee area. There's also some members who were elected in at-large seats in 2018 that are still on the board. Those seats will turn over when we get to the 2022 election. As I'm sure the demographer told you in 2019 when you were doing this process, unfortunately, because of that timing, some of the seats that were drawn, or the trustee areas that were drawn in 2019, never actually get used because you have to redraw after the census data comes out. And actually, that brings us right to the next slide. So what the education code says, there's a specific provision that says when the census data is released, school districts that use trustee areas have to go back, take a look at their areas and make sure that they're still population balanced. And this is a very similar requirement for cities are doing this. You've probably seen special districts, obviously the state, congressional seats, all of these redistricting processes are the same basic idea to take a look at the maps now that we have updated data. And like I said, that data, I believe actually the finalized data came out of the state, I think today, from what I understand from the demographers.
Yay.
So yeah, it only 6 months plus or minus late, but
Yeah, that's okay.
we'll take. And you're lucky because what's interesting is that the school districts have till March. Some other jurisdictions have much earlier deadlines to get this done, so they've got like a couple months to go through the process. So in that respect, March seems like a lot of time. But in any event, the reason this is done, again, just to kind of, excuse me, go over some of the policy here, is that, again, we take our district, 2010, we might have had population balanced trustee areas. In the right-hand side there, 2020 census people have moved, there's been growth, and now the impact or the power of individuals' votes has changed. We've kind of got out of whack a little bit, right? In 2010, everybody had sort of a third of a vote for each member. Now we might have some folks in areas in A, B, and D up here on the illustration where their vote is going to matter more than someone who lives in area C and E. And we're trying to remedy that and make sure that that isn't the situation, which is what this process is all about. And the reason is because the Constitution says you have to do it, basically. One person, one vote. You've heard that before. That's exactly what this is all about, that trustee areas have to contain equal population. What that generally means is 10% variance, and that's 10% between the least populous and the most populous area. You take the two extremes and the difference. So as you can see, this is actually the population data from the map that was adopted based on the 2010 census. You can see the variance for each trustee area, and then the total there was 8.68. So you were under that 10%. But what that means is now we're going to go back and look at those same trustee areas with the new data. You're going to get this table again, and we're going to be looking at, is that 8.68, has that gone up? Has it gone down? Where are we there? Do we have to make adjustments to keep that within that 10% boundary? Now, for the board members that were here when we went through the trustee area drawing process, you probably remember for the public as well, that process is pretty regimented. There's statutory law that says this is the process you follow when you go through that transition process. There's a series of public hearings. The redistricting process is different. The statute does not require any particular process. There's a lot more flexibility for boards about how you go through that process. There's no involvement from the County Committee on School District Organization or the State Board of Education. So again, those are differences from the process last time. The other big difference to know about, because you will see this going on, cities and other agencies are subject to something called the Fair Maps Act. That has certain requirements for redistricting for those agencies. That does not apply to school districts. So they're going to be going through a slightly different process. Now, of course, all that to say, the district and the board can come up with a process that works best for it. It can, and so that may be more hearings, it may be less, but there's not a statutory requirement the way there is when you make the transition in the first place. So given that, sort of the way we're looking at it is in these two phases. The first is to just do the evaluation, do the analysis, look at the areas, determine, are we still within that population balance of 10% or not? If you are, then probably no adjustment needed. We're going and probably going to recommend just a resolution to the effect that we've taken a look at it. We're good. If there are adjustments needed, then the process is going to get a little bit more involved, because then the board will need to take a look at the maps and make adjustments to those trustee areas to make sure that we are within that population balance. And all of that has to happen before March 1st of next year. The only good news on that, I think, in some boards thinking about this, is when they went through the process of drawing those maps in the first place, that was a very involved process, and I think it can be a challenge to start from nothing and come up with maps. When we're doing the redistricting process, we're at least starting from maps that exist, and most likely not having to make major changes, just trying to move the population around a little bit. So it should be hopefully a little bit less of a challenge from that perspective than from starting from scratch. So as far as kind of how does that work out calendaring wise, the first step is retaining a demographer, which is what you have on your agenda tonight. That's a contract with Cooperative Strategies, which is the demographer that did the work with the district when the trustee areas were drawn a couple of years ago. So that is before you tonight. And just a real quick point on that, the way they've also divided their work lines up with the 2 phases we spoke about. So there's one fee for that analysis and another, if it's necessary, to do the redistricting piece. So that would be the first step. Then in October, November, we'd get that analysis to the board from the demographer as far as where the population numbers look now that we have the new data. Again, if there's no changes needed, we'd be looking at a resolution. If there are adjustments needed, then December through February is probably the target time frame to be doing that so that you're done in February and you meet that March 1st deadline. So that's sort of the game plan. And as you probably know, and many of your neighbors are going through the exact same process and pretty much on about the same timeline. I think we're going to see a lot of districts getting their reports probably starting about the middle of October to the middle of November. And we'll start to get a sense of how prevalent the changes are going to be. So with that, there's me, in case you're not sure. I always wondered why we do that. I'm right here. But anyway, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So I have a public comment, and Dr. Derby, do you have anything you want to offer before we
No, I
proceed?
think that was really thorough. My only question was, the areas where we don't have anyone right now, well, because it may change.
Yeah.
Do we know which ones those are?
Yeah, actually, whoops. Yeah, and I was going to actually see if I can.
Kind of near downtown Ignacio.
So I think those are the.
Marin and Ignacio? I can't see that.
Yeah.
The gold one? Yeah, the gold one and the.
Is it in here?
Yeah, yep. And then the blue to the left.
Okay, so that one up there. Okay.
Ours is to Pleasant Valley, sort of like Silver.
Oh, Pleasant Valley.
I have a part of Pleasant Valley.
Yeah. My eyes aren't anywhere near good enough for this.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm even not helpful. Okay. Is there?
It's okay. I don't want to postpone this
Okay.
conversation. I
Okay.
just wanted to know which they were.
Yeah. And I think, and this map is on the district website. You can zoom in on there.
Okay. Other questions? Otherwise, I will ask our public speaker to. Mariah, do you want to speak to us? Oh, pardon me. Mazana, please.
Yeah. You were talking about how when we had before we had the trustee districts, that the minorities weren't represented as well because it was a majority vote. Could you just elaborate on that? Because what did the trustee district, what does that mean, trustee districting? I don't really understand.
Sure. No, so yeah, the theory behind the move and I think behind the CBRA is the idea that when you have at-large elections, every election is essentially a majority rule district-wide. When you go to trustee areas, it becomes 5 separate elections, and if a minority group makes up a majority of a smaller area, then they can essentially win that election, right, because they're a majority in that smaller area. So it's about kind of drawing those areas in such a way, if it's possible, that in some cases those they're called minority-majority areas for that reason. And now, just to kind of go into a little bit in the weeds, what the CBRA doesn't talk about is what the outcome of it is. It just says if you potentially have an issue, if you move to trustee areas, then there's no liability from the district, there's no litigation, and costs ultimately to the district. So hopefully that answers your question.
So let me make a point.
Oh.
So let me make a point. If you look at San Francisco or Oakland or a bigger metropolitan area where the neighborhoods are more clearly distinct, so if you have a Japantown or Chinese-town or Mission District or different parts where over time the neighborhoods are more clearly bounded, then this kind of regulation gets really important because all of a sudden now a neighborhood has a voice. In a town like Novato, our populations are much more mixed around the issues that he described, and it's hard to figure quite exactly how it it works as well in the Novato model. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just, it's a lot clearer in a bigger metropolitan community where the neighborhoods have matured over a longer period of time. So we can go draw pictures if you want. Other questions? If not, I'll ask Mariah to come to the podium, and thank you, Mariah, for coming down.
Good evening, thank you. I would ask that the board would please consider reducing yourself to 5 members. I did some research. We are the only district in Marin that has a board of 7. San Francisco and Oakland both have 7, but they are 50,000 plus students. And as we're starting to form a budget committee and we're really looking at where to tighten up and reduce and make those hard choices, I would ask that you do the same. It looks like we're at a perfect point to have that hard conversation, and I would love for you to start over.
Uh-oh.
Should I hop over?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start from the beginning so the community can hear you?
I will, thank you. So I would ask the board to please consider reducing our school board from 7 members to 5 members. We are the only district in Novato, or the only district in Marin that has a board of 7. And while San Francisco and Oakland do have boards of 7, they also have a student population of over 50,000. We hover between 7 and 8. If it's a hard question, I know it's a hard conversation to have, but I think this is a perfect time to have it. We're trying to make cuts everywhere we can to really focus on the students. And so I would love to hear justification that supports that mission and that priority as to why that is not being brought up or really considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other public comment? Hearing none? Okay, we're going to move it back. Dr. Derby?
I just want to respond to why we have 7. And I don't know if you know the history, Mariah, but I'm going to share it. We used to be 3 districts, Black Point, San Jose, and Novato. And when we merged, each of the districts, in order to consolidate, were promised representatives from each of those schools, and they each had 5. And so that's what happened, and that's how we got 7. So that's, been a long time, 1965 or whenever that happened. So I know someone just asked me that question the other day about why do we have 7 and everyone else has 5, but that is the reason. And so just to know the history, I think, is important.
Can I make a comment? I think that's super valid and we should really be looking at that, but I also just want to pose the concept that particularly in the difficulties that we've had over the past few years, with the parcel tax being an example and sort of the community unrest that we all know about, is this the time to have less voices speak instead of more?
Thank you. Other trustees? Trustee Derek, Nell, and then Trustee Butler, and then...
And I'd like to chime in at some point, too. Thank you.
Oh, sure, Greg. I missed you. I just didn't see your hand up. I'm sorry.
So my question is a process question. Since we're redrawing the districts based on the census and the population change, is this also an open opportunity for us to increase or decrease the number of representatives? Representatives.
I'm happy to.
Yeah, please. The question was directed to you.
On its surface, it would seem like it would be. The complication is this, that we're talking about 2 separate processes. So there's a redistricting process, which what I talked about. The process to reduce the number of, or decrease the number of trustees is closer to what the district went through when it enacted trustee areas. In other words, it's a separate proposal that has to go to the County Committee on School District Organization for their approval. And then by law, it triggers an election in the district. And as you may recall from going through the trustee area process, that election requirement can be waived by the State Board of Education. But where it becomes a little bit of an issue to try to combine them, in this case, would be from a timing perspective. And the reason I say that is the redistricting needs to be done by March 1st, like we were talking about. The earliest that you could get a waiver from that election requirement, assuming the board, well, first of all, if you had an election, that wouldn't happen until sometime probably next November. The soonest you could get a waiver from that requirement is January. of 2022. Because that's when the state board meeting is. So at this point, you're kind of, those two, the timing piece of it creates a little bit of an issue, and probably would eliminate the efficiency of trying to do both at the same time, because it really would look more like two processes that are moving simultaneously and less like one process to do both, to accomplish both goals, if that makes sense. I mean, we looked into it. We've talked to the state about it to see, is there some other way? But unfortunately, they're kind of two separate processes.
Sure. Wait a minute. I think you're.
I was just going to add that.
Can we just go in order?
I'm okay if she goes.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that because we have had the conversation. Can you explain what it means to go? Because I think for me, part of the confusion about the timing was what it means to go to an election. Can you just touch on that? What that meant?
So basically, outside of redistricting, pretty much any other change to district elections triggers a requirement to get the voters of the entire district to approve that change. So if you change the number of trustees, if you were to actually change trustee areas outside of the census process, all of those things ultimately trigger an election in the district. And so you can get that waived, but again, like we said, you've got to go to the state board to get that waiver. There's no guarantee they're going to grant it, and it's also usually a time issue because their lag on their meetings is pretty far out. So if that answered the question.
Diane, did that cover your item?
Yeah, I just wanted, because there were a couple of details that I didn't understand when you just say there's a little, there was details that, just say there's not, well, what does election mean? What do you, so we got it waived the last time, but that this is separate.
Okay. Trustee Butler, I think, is next.
Just to tag on to that conversation of moving from, this is not on our agenda, moving 7 to 5, so I just want to be clear of that. So maybe something we could bring back. I think it's important that we provide some transparency and that we still at least have the conversation, that it comes back at the next board meeting of revisiting moving from 7 to 5 and make sure this existing board right now, even though it's a little bit different than what it was in 2019, we had that discussion then when we were moving trustee areas, and it was a 4-3 vote to stay at 7. So I think it would be important for us to revisit and make sure we're still on that same page and just agendize it is what I'm recommending. And we may end up staying where we are. I'd love to see a flow chart of some sort, a timeline of the two separate side by side in some way. That would be super helpful.
Okay.
And this, what you presented is pretty clear to me, pretty straightforward, seems pretty simple. I don't see too many. We've been through it before, so I'm familiar with it.
Trustee, pardon me.
Yeah, so I think that's it. So what I'm asking is to bring back a discussion action of moving from 7 to 5. I understand the hurdles that we might have to face, but I think since it's not agendized, I don't want to have a full conversation.
Right, it's not agendized for this evening. This is a contract. So Trustee Mack? Greg?
Yes, hi. Apologize for the noise in the background, but speaking as one of the trustees who actually voted to go down to 5 the last time, I actually have kind of changed my thought process on that, largely in line with Trustee Jacobson, in that now is not the time to do it. I'm afraid we have way too much real serious business to address, and I really am reluctant to throw this in the middle of all that, especially in terms of what it might do for perceptions, because we have 2 open districts, and we're effectively getting rid of them. Granted, they'll be represented, but we are effectively taking 2 seats away. And I'll say more of this when we have it agendized, but that's my thought process.
Other trustee comments? Is trustee, we have a guest speaker on this item? Derek, you want to? Yeah,
well, while we're waiting, I'll just add the comment that I support Trustee Butler's idea of maybe bringing forward a timeline. So, for example, if we had thought of this sooner, we might actually be halfway there on a decision to, and the timing would work out. But so, I mean, it would be nice to see what it would take from a timeline perspective when we would have to start to make the next regularly scheduled election, because I do think there's advantages and efficiencies in a smaller board, but I certainly not advocating that we try to jump into it at this point, but I do think we should have it part of this process so we can answer this question, if anything else, is like why we're not and what it takes to do it. So it'd be a good idea.
I have, do you want to go first, Trustee Gaston, and I'll ask our speaker.
So I will add, I'm also in agreement with Trustees Nell and Butler, but I wanted to add to, just in terms of timing, I think what would be great, and it's so wonderful if we've got those numbers say, because that's been the hiccup, if that creates the need for us to go and redraw lines, then I think it's great. If it doesn't, then we actually can stop right there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that rolls out. Curious about, well, no, for the next, but this one, if our percentages doesn't change a whole lot, I don't know what the information reveals. And I just forgot now.
You get another turn.
Okay.
No, I know. He said I can't have another turn. Okay.
Mr. Alan Harris, please.
My name is Alan Harris, and I'm appearing as a about to be appointed member, I think, of the Budget Advisory Committee. And I'm not going to speak to 5 or 7, but to methods of saving money. There are a lot of ways to save money if you want to reduce the cost of district leadership. I can remember once when the district was in financial difficulties, we suspended the stipend, and I'm not sure whether the benefits were also suspended for a period of time until a more solid financial footing occurred. So just cutting out 2 people seems to be, one method of doing it, but it's rather drastic. And there's many other finer ways of reducing if you want to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from trustees? I'll add a couple of comments. So the item before us is recommendation. Superintendent and staff recommends the approval of the agreement between Nevada Unified School District and Cooperative Strategies. And I believe we're all in favor of what's the item in front of us. What I've heard this evening is 3 trustees wanting to have a conversation about 5 and 7. So that needs to be agendized. And before we briefly, my view is we are moving into a parcel tax. The most important thing we can do is to have as strong a community connection and leadership as possible. And I have held that a 7-member board is better for us in that regard, and that's the position I will present when we meet again on this item. So with that said, I need a motion for the recommendation in front of us. Superintendent and staff recommends the approval of the agreement between Nevada Unified School District and Cooperative Strategies. Do I have a motion to that effect? Trustee Jacobson moves, and
I'll second.
Trustee Nell seconds. And with that, this enters us into the agreement of being able to get the actual data. Comments? I will. Just slow down. So all in favor of the motion. So I have 6 trustees in favor, 1 absent, and student advisory votes, I have 2. Okay. I think we're good for that item. Thank you very much.
Yes, I approve.
Pardon me, sir. Yep. Thank you. Just keep me honest. I appreciate it. Okay, with that, we're moving into item 14B, review and approval of board policies and administrative regulations. And Dr. Derby, do you want to lead us forward on this?
Because this is a curriculum issue, that a board policy on curriculum and health. It's a second reading, and Jen is here to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Derby. I'm here for a second reading of Board Policy 6142.8, Comprehensive Health Education. After our first reading, it was requested that we add into the line of board policy in the second section the specific identification of physical, mental, and social well-being to make it less vague, and that has been added. And so here tonight to see if there's any other questions or comments before asking for approval for this board policy.
Comments or questions from trustees? Student trustees, any comments or questions? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to approve.
I'll move approval of the second reading of the health and education.
Motion by trustee Nell, second by trustee Butler. With that, we'll move.
Second and final reading.
Second and final reading, right? So this
Second
settles
and
it, we're
final
not coming
reading.
back again. Okay, so all in favor, advisory vote, 2 advisory votes by students, 6 in favor, and trustee Aguilar absent. That moves us into item, that was all of item B, right? Now it's Lois? Yep. This is also a second reading, 7,000 series.
Correct. There were no comments or changes on this, so it is in its final condition unless there's something else that came up in the past week, and otherwise I would ask that you accept this policy as it is.
Any comments or questions? If not, I'll take trustee Nell.
So I'm in favor of these policies having at least 2 readings. I feel like it gives the public additional time to identify issues that they may, or concerns they may have. But if there are no public comments coming forward, then I'm prepared to move the adoption of this
Thank you, sir.
policy.
I need a second. Trustee Jacobson, second. So this is reviewing board policies in the 7,000 series. All in favor, 7 advisory votes, both student advisory, so we have 6 in favor. Trustee Aguilar absent. Trustee Mack?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're done with that. So now we're moving into item D, review and approval of the board policy in the 3,000 series. Dr. Derby, this is assigned to you.
Assigned to me.
Well, somebody.
Yeah.
Ellen told me you were going to handle
Yes.
this, so I just took her at her word.
No, yeah, this is an important one because we've been having a lot of discussions on which contracts come to the board, which ones don't. And so we decided to put it in writing so that it wasn't just word of mouth. When we came in, we said, which ones go and which ones don't. So this is to formalize it and document it. So we would like you to approve this tonight, unless you have a different idea on the amounts. We thought that the $25,000 was appropriate, and certainly you see the others, but I think that's the ones that are below. And I think, Julie, you've been really looking at the warrants, and I appreciate that. And because someone was saying to me, do we have one of the trustees assigned to the warrants? I mean, but we don't. I mean, I think anybody that wants to look at them, but it's a very helpful thing to ask the questions. So we would like you to approve this so that we have something memorialized, so there's not questions in the future with the change in superintendent and change in HR and all the changes that come forward.
Questions from the trustees? Trustee Butler.
So what you have here is all of the protocols or procedures that you're gonna, the agreements, those are not in the policy.
No.
So I just
The
want to make
amount,
that.
just, yeah.
What'd you say, sorry?
The amount.
The amount is,
Yeah.
yeah, but not what you have are 1 through 5.
Right.
Or 1 through 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
But so we should be approving, are we approving the policy and these agreements?
You would be approving that we would add these agreements in the policy. I guess that's what the best way to say it.
Okay, so these
Yeah.
will appear in
We
the
will, we'll put
Okay,
it all,
just we're
yeah.
not seeing that on this review.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Yeah, but we will, and then we can bring that back.
You could just put it on consent.
Just
I
put,
think
yeah, we
would
can
be-
put it on consent
I
for
think
next
that would
time.
be a
Okay.
good idea.
All right, that'd be great.
So you want to make a motion to approve it
Yeah.
as a first reading with coming back as a second reading on consent?
Yes.
Is that what you're?
Board policy 3312 contracts, yes.
Do I have a second? Second by trustee Jacobson. Any comments from student trustees? So this is the part where we're watching the dollars for this $100 million enterprise. So this is important stuff. And what you heard is trustee Jacobson goes through before every board meeting and looks at the list of they're called warrants in a public agency. We call them checks if it was a private company, and see where we're actually spending the money. So somebody besides staff has got their eyeballs on this exercise. So this is the important part of the business. Trustee?
I just want to thank you for bringing this to us. In all the nonprofit, specifically boards I've been involved in, there's always a threshold of approvals. So
Yeah.
I'm sad that it wasn't in there before, but I'm glad it is now. Thank you for catching that, Lois.
Sure.
So with that, we need approval of this measure. Yes, sure.
Just popped in. Does this include construction contracts? Or
No.
is this- Okay.
Well, construction contracts are all
Well,
coming
you just
to you.
used the word contract.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to
Yeah,
clarify.
no, the construction contracts are separate.
Okay. So all in favor? 6 trustees in favor, 1 absent, and 2 advisory yes votes for the student trustees. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, you know, I thought I'm starting to hear you in my dreams. Okay, so we're down to item 14E, and this is approval of the unified initial proposal for negotiations.
Right, Barbara.
Dr. Derby, you want to lead us?
Yeah, Barbara's coming up. Last meeting, we had Mariah here, and she was able to say what is NFT bringing forward. And now Barbara's going to say what is the district bringing forward. We have a lot in common with those two groups, so it's good to see that.
Good evening. The district is going to propose as opening on a variety of articles, many of which are the same as NFT is open, so it should make for a good collaborative working session or 2 or 5 or 6, however many it takes to get the job done. So the district is opening on Article 7, which is work year, Article 8, professional responsibility, Article 9, class size, Article 10, evaluation, Article 13, sabbatical, 14, resignation and retirement, 15 is job shares, Article 16 is compensation, Article 17 is benefits, and like NFT, the district also wants to review and discuss the exhibits that are included as part of the collective bargaining agreement. So our first session is Friday, October the 1st. Any questions from anyone?
So do we need to adopt these as a motion?
Yeah.
Yes, right, yep. So this board has to approve the openers before us. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the openers from NUSD. Trustee Butler, so moved. Trustee Nell, second. So this sets the stage for the negotiation with our NFT bargaining unit. So all in favor, 6 in favor, 1 absent, and advisory by student trustees. And Greg, I didn't see your hand. Try again.
Yes.
Yep, okay. Thank you, sir. And that is the last item on tonight's agenda. Hearing no more from the floor, we are going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. It's only 5 minutes after 7.